Please, please, just 5 minutes. I haven't eaten in 4 days.
I just need something, anything. Wait, security. Let her in.
The rain hammered against the glass windows of Le Shadow, the most exclusive restaurant in the city, when the front doors burst open and a girl in a torn gray coat stumbled inside, soaked to the bone, shaking so hard her teeth clattered together. 2 security guards lunged for her arms before she'd taken 3 steps. "Get her out. We don't allow her kind in here." "Please, please, just 5 minutes. I haven't eaten in 4 days. I just need something, anything." "Out now." She twisted free for a second, her eyes darting across the dining room until they landed on a table near the window, where an elegant woman in her 60s sat alone, a half-finished plate of salmon and untouched bread in front of her. The girl's stomach cramped so violently she nearly doubled over. "Ma'am, please, if you're not going to finish that." The guard yanked her back by the collar. "I said out." "Stop." The woman at the table rose to her feet, her voice cutting through the restaurant like a blade through silk. Every head turned. "Take your hands off her." The guard froze. "Mrs. Whitfield, this woman was." "This woman is my guest. Release her immediately, or you'll be looking for new employment by morning." The girl stood frozen, drenched and trembling, staring at the woman as though she'd never heard kindness spoken aloud before. "Ma'am, I don't want any trouble. I'll leave. I didn't mean to." "Sit down." Eleanor Whitfield pulled out the chair across from her own. "You look like you're about to collapse." "I can't. People are starving. I'll ruin your dinner." "Sit down." The girl obeyed, lowering herself into the chair as if she expected it to be yanked away at any second. Up close, Eleanor could see the hollows beneath her eyes, the way her hands shook even resting flat on the table, the cracked skin on her knuckles from the cold. "What's your name, dear?" Ivy Bennett." "Well, Ivy Bennett, you're about to have the best meal of your life." Eleanor waved down the waiter. "Bring her the roasted chicken, the soup, fresh bread, and whatever dessert is on the menu tonight. And water, lots of water." "Ma'am, I can't pay for any of this." "Did I ask you to pay?" Ivy's eyes welled up before she could stop them. "Nobody's been this kind to me in, I don't even remember how long." Before you keep watching, hit that subscribe button and tap the notification bell, because this story is about to take a turn nobody sees coming, and you will not want to miss a single second of what happens next. Drop a comment below telling me where you're watching from tonight. The food arrived in minutes, and Ivy ate like a person who had forgotten what safety tasted like, fast, desperate, apologizing between bites for eating too quickly, for taking too much, for existing too loudly at a table that clearly wasn't meant for people like her. Eleanor watched her with an expression the girl couldn't quite read, something softer than pity, something closer to recognition. "How long have you been on the street?" Eleanor asked quietly. 6 months. It's a long story, an ugly one." "I have time, and I promise you I've heard uglier." Ivy set down her fork. "I was in college, studying to be a teacher. I had a scholarship, a tiny apartment, a boyfriend I thought loved me. His name was Julian. He convinced me to co-sign loans for a business venture, said it was for our future. Then he disappeared, took the money, left me with the debt and men calling every day threatening to break my legs if I didn't pay. I lost my apartment, lost the scholarship, lost everything. I've been running ever since." "And your family, surely someone." "I don't have one. I grew up in a group home, St. Agnes. They told me I was found outside a hospital as a newborn, wrapped in a blanket, no note, no name, just left." Ivy laughed bitterly. "So no, ma'am, there's no family to call." Eleanor's hand, which had been reaching for her water glass, went very still. "What hospital?" "Mercy General. Why?" "No reason." But her voice had changed, thinner, tighter, like something inside her chest had cracked open. "Finish eating, dear, please." Ivy didn't notice the shift, too consumed by the first full meal she'd had in half a year. But something had happened at that table, something neither of them could yet name, and it would not stay buried for long. By the time dessert arrived, a slice of chocolate torte that made Ivy's eyes flutter shut in something close to reverence, Eleanor had made a decision. "Come home with me tonight." Ivy's fork clattered against the plate. "What?" "I have a house with more rooms than I know what to do with and nobody to fill them. A warm bed, a hot shower, clean clothes, just for tonight. Tomorrow, if you want to leave, you leave and I won't stop you." "Ma'am, you don't know me. I could be dangerous. I could rob you blind. People don't just invite strangers off the street into their homes." "You're right, it's reckless. My lawyer would have a heart attack." Eleanor reached across the table and for the first time took the girl's cold, trembling hand in her own. "But there's something about you, Ivy Bennett, something I can't explain. Call it instinct. Call it an old woman's foolishness. But I don't think we met by accident tonight. If you're feeling that chill up your spine right now, that's your cue. Smash that like button and let me know in the comments if you've already guessed what's coming. Trust me, you haven't." The house was enormous, a stone mansion with iron gates and a driveway lined with lanterns. Ivy stood in the foyer, gaping up at the vaulted ceilings, feeling smaller than she had even on the street. "This is bigger than St. Agnes, bigger than 3 St. Agnes homes stacked together." "It's too big," Eleanor admitted, something hollow entering her voice. "A house like this with nobody to fill it, it isn't a home anymore. It's just an expensive, empty box." "Ma'am, this is Ivy," Eleanor told the housekeeper, a warm-faced woman named Marta who appeared at the top of the stairs. "She'll be staying with us. Prepare the blue room. Draw her a hot bath and find her something comfortable to wear." Marta's face flickered just for a second, a strange mixture of shock and grief, before she nodded. "The blue room, ma'am. Are you certain?" "I'm certain." Later that night, alone in her study, Eleanor Whitfield sat with a photograph in trembling hands, a photograph of a baby girl, 6 months old, wrapped in a yellow blanket, a tiny birthmark shaped like a crescent moon just beneath her left ear. She hadn't looked at this photograph in 23 years. She hadn't been able to. "Grace," she whispered to the empty room, "could it be you?" 23 years ago, Eleanor Whitfield had given birth to a daughter after a decade of trying. She'd named her Grace. 6 months later, a fever took hold, and the hospital told her the baby had died in the night. She'd buried an empty casket because they said the tiny body was too fragile to be seen. She'd mourned for over 2 decades, never remarried, never had another child, built an empire instead because grief needed somewhere to go and money was the only thing that never argued back. She picked up her phone and dialed a number she hadn't used in years, her private investigator. "Marcus, I need you to find someone. A nurse who worked in the maternity ward at Mercy General 23 years ago. Her name was Dolores Reyes, and I need you to pull every record you can on a group home called St. Agnes." "Ma'am, may I ask what this is regarding?" "My daughter," Eleanor said, her voice breaking on the word. "I think my daughter might be alive." The investigation took 11 days. 11 days in which Ivy, unaware of the storm quietly gathering around her, began, for the first time in years, to laugh again. Eleanor enrolled her in evening classes to finish her teaching degree. She bought her books, not diamonds. She sat with her at breakfast every morning and listened to her talk about the students she hoped to teach someday, the elementary classroom she dreamed of filling with beanbag chairs and a reading corner. "You really believe I could still do this, become a teacher?" "I believe you were always going to. The street just delayed it. It didn't erase it." On the 12th day, Marcus called. "I found her, Dolores Reyes. She's living 200 miles from here, terminal cancer, ma'am. Weeks left, maybe less. I spoke with her. When I mentioned your name, she broke down sobbing. Said she'd been waiting 23 years for someone to ask her the truth." "Tell me." "Your daughter didn't die that night, Mrs. Whitfield. The fever was real, but she survived it. Someone paid Dolores a significant sum to make the baby disappear, to tell you she died. Dolores couldn't bring herself to harm an infant, so instead of following the order completely, she left the baby at an orphanage under a false name. St. Agnes. Eleanor's knees buckled. She gripped the edge of her desk to keep from collapsing entirely. Who paid her to do this? Marcus's voice dropped. According to her sworn confession, it was your late husband's brother, Richard. Richard? The name came out like poison. He did this for the inheritance. If Grace lived, she'd inherit everything ahead of him. There's more, ma'am. Dolores kept a recording all these years, Richard giving the order over the phone. Insurance, she called it, in case her conscience ever got the better of her. She's sending it to me tonight. Eleanor closed her eyes, and for the first time in 23 years, she allowed herself to imagine that her daughter might be sitting downstairs right now, laughing at something on television, utterly unaware that the woman feeding her breakfast every morning was the mother she'd spent her whole life believing had never wanted her. I need a DNA test, Marcus, discreetly. I need to be certain before I say a single word to her. If I'm wrong, it will destroy us both. If your heart is pounding right now, drop a fire in the comments and don't forget to subscribe, because the next part of this story changes everything. The test took a sample from a hairbrush and a coffee cup, collected while Ivy slept, sent overnight to a private lab with instructions for absolute discretion. 48 hours later, Eleanor sat alone in her study with an envelope she was too terrified to open. She sat there for nearly an hour before she finally tore it apart. Probability of maternity, 99.98%. She didn't remember crying. She didn't remember sliding to the floor. She only remembered sometime later Ivy's voice at the door, frightened. "Ma'am, Eleanor, are you okay? You're scaring me." "Come here, my girl. Sit down. I need to tell you something, and I need you to listen with your whole heart because what I'm about to say is going to change everything." "You're scaring me." 23 years ago, I had a daughter. Her name was Grace. She got sick when she was 6 months old, and the hospital told me she died. I buried her. I mourned her every single day since. But she didn't die, Ivy. Someone in my own family paid a nurse to make her disappear because if she lived, she would inherit everything ahead of him. That nurse couldn't bring herself to hurt an infant, so she left the baby at an orphanage instead. An orphanage called St. Agnes. Ivy went pale. No, that doesn't happen in real life. That only happens in movies. You have a crescent-shaped birthmark just below your left ear. Your father, Thomas, had the exact same one. You have his smile, that same small dimple on the right side. He painted stars on the nursery ceiling 3 weeks before you were born. That room upstairs, the blue room, that was your nursery, Ivy. I closed it 23 years ago because I couldn't bear to walk past the door. I had you tested. I'm so sorry I didn't ask first. I had to be certain before I broke your heart with false hope. She slid the paper across the table. Ivy's hand shook so badly she could barely hold it. You're my mother." "Yes, my girl, I am your mother, and I never gave you away. I thought nobody wanted me my whole life. I thought I was garbage nobody chose, and there was a mother out there crying for me every single day. Every single day. Come here, come to your mother." The two women collapsed into each other's arms, 23 years of grief pouring out at once, and for a moment it seemed the story might simply end there, a happy ending, tied neatly with a bow. It did not. Comment below with one word describing how you're feeling right now, because trust me, it's about to get so much worse before it gets better. And if this story has you hooked, tap that subscribe button now so you don't miss the ending. 3 weeks later, in a dim office across town, Richard Whitfield sat across from a man in a rumpled leather jacket, a folder of photographs spread between them. "So you're the boyfriend," Richard said, sliding a drink across the table. "The one who ruined her, Julian, was it?" "That's me." Julian Cross smiled, cold and thin. "You've got a problem and I think I can solve it." "I'm listening." "That girl trusted me once. I know her fears, her insecurities, exactly which buttons to push. And you've got the money and the reach to make anyone disappear from a family tree without lifting a finger. Together, we make Grace Whitfield vanish from her mother's life for good. No violence. Violence leaves evidence. What we need is something subtler. Go on. We make Alina believe her precious recovered daughter is a con artist. Fake letters, manipulated photographs, a paid witness who will swear under oath he heard the two of us plotting the whole thing from the start, that the restaurant, the leftovers, all of it was staged. A woman who just got her daughter back after 23 years is fragile, Richard. She's terrified it isn't real. All we have to do is feed that fear, and she'll do the rest herself. Richard raised his glass. I'm starting to like you, Julian. The letter arrived 8 days later, slipped under Alina's study door with no return address. Inside were photographs, grainy, doctored, but convincing enough, of Ivy and Julian standing close together outside a coffee shop, heads bent in conversation. A note accompanied them. She knew who you were before she ever stepped foot in that restaurant. It was all planned. Ask her yourself if you don't believe me. Alina stared at the photographs until her hands went numb. What if it had all been a performance? What if the hunger, the tears, the desperate story of an abandoned orphan girl had been a role rehearsed to perfection? What if Ivy had known exactly who she was walking up to that table, and everything since, every laugh, every hug, every "I love you, Mom," had been a con executed with surgical precision? No, the DNA test doesn't lie. She is my daughter, that much is true. But what if she knew before I did? What if she found out and said nothing, waiting for the perfect moment to claim it? Over the following days, something in Alina shifted, cold and quiet, and Ivy felt it immediately. Mom, is something wrong? You've been so distant lately. Did I do something? No, sweetheart, just tired, business matters. But the distance grew, day by day, until Alina finally couldn't hold it in any longer. I need you to tell me the truth, Ivy. Who is this man? She slapped the photographs onto the table. Is this Julian? Did you know who I was before you ever asked me for my leftovers? Ivy stared at the photos, then at her mother's face, and something inside her chest cracked wide open. You think I planned this? You think my hunger was an act? That the tears in that restaurant were fake? That I've been sleeping under your roof for weeks scheming to rob you? I don't know what to think anymore. For a few weeks I let myself believe someone finally loved me for real, not for anything I could give them. How foolish of me. Ivy stood, chair scraping violently against the floor. I'm leaving. I won't stay somewhere I'm not wanted. I've lived that before and I refuse to live it again. Keep your money. I never wanted it. I only ever wanted a mother. Stop, stop, Ivy. Grace, please wait. Ivy was already at the door when Alina caught her wrist. Forgive me, please forgive me. For one terrible moment, fear got the better of me. 23 years of betrayal taught me to trust nothing, and I nearly let poison steal the one true thing I have left. But I look at you, I really look at you, and I know. No con artist walks away from millions for a hug. Only a real daughter does that. Only my daughter. You believe me, you actually believe me. With my whole soul, and I am going to prove it to both of us. We are going to find out who sent those photographs, and we are going to do it together, because you are my daughter, and nobody gets to slander my daughter and walk away clean. If you thought that was the twist, buckle up, like this video right now if you're rooting for Ivy, and stay tuned, because the real villain is about to be exposed in the next few minutes. Marcus worked fast. Within 48 hours, the paid witness, a struggling actor named Peter Doyle, cracked under the threat of a perjury charge and confessed everything. Richard Whitfield had paid him $5,000 to fabricate the story of overhearing Ivy and Julian plotting a scam. He said it would be easy money, Doyle admitted, sweating through his shirt in Alina's study. Said nobody would ever check. He's got a man named Julian Cross running the whole operation with him. That same evening, Alina received a knock at her door. Dolores Reyes, the nurse, frail, barely able to stand, oxygen tank trailing behind her, had insisted on being brought in person, against her doctor's orders, to deliver her confession face to face. "I don't deserve your forgiveness, Mrs. Whitfield," Dolores said, voice trembling. 23 years ago, I committed the worst sin of my life. Richard Whitfield paid me to make your baby disappear. He told me to end her life. I couldn't do it. She was such a healthy, beautiful little girl. I left her at St. Agnes and prayed every single day since for forgiveness I never thought I'd receive. Here, my signed confession and the recording of Richard giving the order. I kept it all these years as my only insurance in case my conscience ever demanded justice. Use it. Bury that man. It's the only good thing I have left to give before I die." Alina took the recording with shaking hands, tears streaming freely down her face. "You saved my daughter's life. You could have ended it and you didn't. Because of you, I have her back. I forgive you, Dolores. From the bottom of my heart, I forgive you." That night, Alina made one phone call. "Richard, I just caught someone impersonating my daughter, trying to steal our family's fortune with forged photographs. I think you should come see her for yourself." Richard arrived within the hour, smug, adjusting his cufflinks as he stepped into the parlor. "I always told you that street girl was suspicious. What did you expect, taking in an orphan off the pavement? Family has to protect itself from opportunists, Alina." "Tell me, Richard, you who know so much about protecting family, what really happened to my daughter 23 years ago?" "She died, a tragedy. You know that better than anyone." "How curious," Alina said, setting a small recorder on the table between them, "because I have a recording here of you ordering a nurse to make my 6-month-old daughter disappear. And I have that nurse alive, with a signed, notarized confession. And I have your associate, Julian Cross, sitting in the next room right now, ready to testify that you paid him to slander my daughter with fabricated evidence." Richard's face drained of all color. "Alina, wait. My daughter, Richard, the girl you tried to erase for an inheritance, she's alive, and she knows everything." Alina's voice hardened into something unrecognizable, the voice of a woman who had spent 2 decades building an empire out of raw grief and was done being gentle. "I wouldn't run if I were you. There's nowhere in this city my money can't reach." 2 police officers stepped into the room from the hallway where they'd been waiting. "Richard Whitfield, Julian Cross, you're both under arrest for kidnapping, fraud, conspiracy, and attempted destruction of an infant's life." "That girl will never be a Whitfield," Richard screamed as the officers cuffed him. "She's a nobody from the street. She's nothing." Ivy stepped into the doorway then, calm, steady. Her chin lifted high, in a way that made Alina's heart swell with pride. "You're right about one thing, Uncle Richard. I grew up on the street. I was hungry. I asked strangers for their leftovers just to survive another day. But you know what I learned out there that you never will, locked up in all your money." She let the silence stretch. "Real wealth isn't in a bank account. It's in a mother who never stopped searching for you. And even after everything you've taken and everything you've done, you'll always be poorer than I was the night I slept in a doorway with nothing but hope." The officers led him away in silence. 6 months later, Ivy stood at the front of a small elementary school classroom, chalk dust on her fingertips, a room full of wide-eyed second graders watching her write their names on a welcome board. Alina sat quietly in the back during the open house, watching her daughter, her Grace, her Ivy, do exactly what she had always dreamed of doing, safe, whole, and finally, completely home. "You did this," Alina whispered to her later that evening, over dinner at the same restaurant where it had all begun. "You built this life back from nothing. We did it together, Mom. You gave me a table when the whole world told me I didn't deserve one." Ivy reached across and squeezed her mother's hand. "I asked a stranger for her leftovers that night because I thought I had nothing left to lose. I never imagined I'd find everything instead." Outside, the rain that had once driven a starving girl through a restaurant's doors had turned into a soft, gentle evening. And for the first time in 23 years, Eleanor Whitfield ate dinner with her daughter across the table, exactly where she was always meant to be. If this story moved you even a little, that's your sign to hit subscribe right now so you never miss the next one. Drop a comment below telling me which twist hit you the hardest, Richard's betrayal, the DNA reveal, or Dolar's confession. And don't forget to like this video and share it with someone who needs a reminder that sometimes the family we lost is closer than we think. Thank you for watching until the very end. I'll see you in the next story.